During Christmas break, my wife, Lena, practically begged me to go to her class reunion. When we pulled into the hotel parking lot, it was packed with luxury cars. Ours looked like a punchline. Before we even got out, I caught someone whispering nearby. "I don't get it, Lena. Was that girl back in school? How'd she end up with a guy like Alex?" Lena heard it too. She didn't flinch. She just smiled and slipped into the crowd, like I was part of the scenery. Inside, it was the same old routine. People comparing watches, bragging about promotions, laughing a little too loud. Lena floated from table to table, glowing under the lights, acting like she'd arrived alone. After dinner, Connor, the hotshot everyone used to worship back in the day, strolled right up and took Lena's hand. "Like it belonged to him, Alex," he said loud enough for half the room to hear. "I want your wife, name your price." "She's mine," I didn't explode. I didn't throw a fit, I just laughed. "You two might want to think twice," I said. "Divorcing me is going to cost you a lot more than you think." Connor leaned back, twirling his car keys like he was on a stage. "Long time no. See, your negotiating skills have improved." His grin widened. "Consider the money a thank you for babysitting Lena all these years. You think you can scare me with consequences? Do you even know who I am?" Before I could answer, Lena pressed herself against him, perfectly made up in a bright red dress, suddenly playing soft and fragile, like she needed rescuing, Alex. She said sweetly, "Just take the money. It's better for everyone." I watched them, the two of them, wrapped up in the same smug little performance. And it clicked. So that was why she'd been calling me nonstop lately, pushing, insisting, acting like the reunion mattered. This wasn't nostalgia, it was a setup. She'd teamed up with the school's golden boy to corner me in front of an audience. I smirked. "So you planned this whole thing?" Lena's expression sharpened. "What are you talking about?" Connor answered for her like he owned the script. Lena lifted her chin. "Connor and I are in love. If he hadn't left the state back then, we would have been together years ago." I almost couldn't believe it. Everyone knew Connor dumped her. Now it was suddenly a tragic love story. I didn't know how they'd reconnected, but one thing was still true. Lena was legally my wife, Lena. I said, "Do you have any idea what kind of mess you're stepping into? You're breaking vows, and you're trying to force a divorce like it's some party trick." Lena couldn't hold my gaze. Connor pulled her closer, putting on a hero act that made my skin crawl. "Cut the speeches," he said. "You're just mad because you think the number isn't high enough. Name your price, I've got plenty." Looking at him, I felt like I was watching a bad comedy. "With a big budget, here's a heads up, Connor," I said evenly. "If you try to push this through tonight, you're both walking into trouble." "You don't understand," Lena snapped loud and sharp. "Stop trying to scare us. What can you possibly do? We barely even see each other." "Who knows what you've been doing this whole time?" She scoffed honestly. "If you hadn't chased me back then, you wouldn't be getting anything." The room reacted exactly the way she wanted. Snickers, murmurs. People leaning in like it was a show. Someone laughed, "See? Your worth determines the woman you get." Another voice chimed in. "A nobody like Alex was always going to lose his wife." They looked me up and down like I was a prop. Connor had money swagger, and that loud confidence people mistake for power. To them, that was the only language that mattered. I'd had enough. I pushed my chair back to leave, but a hand dropped onto my shoulder, heavy and possessive. "Where do you think you're going?" Connor said, grinning like I was something he'd stepped on. "Did I say you could leave?" Then he lowered his voice, still loud enough for people nearby to hear. "You've got two choices. Take the money and sign, or things are going to get really unpleasant." I couldn't help it. I laughed again. "You sure you want me to choose?" Connor's smile thinned. "Agree to the divorce, and I'll make sure you live comfortably for life." I held my temper in place and nodded slowly. "Fine, I'll divorce Lena. Keep the money." Connor's eyes lit up like he'd won. But I added, "I need to make a phone call first." He burst out laughing. "You think you're important? This isn't a negotiation call, whoever you want. You're getting divorced tonight." "Got it." I met his eyes without blinking. "I told you I'll divorce her, but I need approval from higher up. This isn't only my decision." His face darkened for a second. It looked like he might actually lose control, but Lena slipped in quickly, stroking his arm. "Babe," she murmured, "be the bigger person. Don't sink to his level, let him make the call." She turned to me with a smug little smile. "Alex, I'm warning you. No matter who you call or what you say, I'm getting this divorce today." And that smugness hit harder than the insults. I thought I treated Lena well. I handed over my paycheck every month. She never worked, never worried, never lifted a finger at home. She shopped, played cards, complained, and somehow still acted like I was the one failing her. In that moment, whatever feelings I've been clinging to finally snapped. Lena, I said quietly, don't flatter yourself. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just disgusted, Connor scoffed. Still performing for the room. You're still acting tough. You'll be the one with regrets. I waved him off like he was background noise. Fine, that's all I needed to hear. I pulled out my phone and called my right hand. Hey, I said. It's Alex. Maya picked up instantly. Boss, what's going on? I need you to listen, I said, and I laid it out quickly. The reunion, the pressure, Connor trying to force a divorce in front of everyone, and Lena smiling through like she'd rehearsed it in the mirror. On the other end, I heard a sharp sound like something knocked over. Then Maya's voice turned cold. Where are you? I gave her the location. Connor snatched the phone from my hand. Listen, he snapped into the speaker. I don't care who you are or what your relationship is with Alex. I want his wife and nobody's stopping me. Stay out of it. There was a brief silence. Then Maya said very slowly, You're forcing Alex to divorce Connor. Connor didn't catch the weight in that pause. He stayed cocky loud, certain the world worked the way he wanted it to. Yeah, he said, That's right in this city. There's nothing I can't get one woman, please. Who's going to stop me then? He tossed my phone to the floor and ground it under his shoe like it was nothing. Call's done, he said now. Keep your word. Lena stepped forward, arm hooked around Connor's, and handed me a stack of papers. Everything's ready, she said. Signed the moment I saw the documents. How prepared they were, how polished and complete. I felt my last doubt evaporate. This wasn't a sudden decision. This had been in motion for a long time. I didn't hesitate. I signed my name and handed the papers back. Lena stared at me like she couldn't process it. Alex, what is this supposed to mean? I looked up calm and ice cold. What isn't this what you wanted? I signed, now you're upset. Her face flushed fine. I'll sign like anyone cares about you. She signed immediately fast. Angry strokes, like she couldn't wait to erase me. 5 years reduced to ink, I didn't feel grief. Just relief done. I said she's yours. Can I go now? Wait. Connor stepped into my path, smiling again. Your part's done. Now it's our turn. I narrowed my eyes. His expression turned uglier, more personal. That goody two-shoes who reported me in college. He said that was you. Wasn't it? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gotten shoved out of the program I wanted. And Lena wouldn't have been stuck with you. He leaned closer for years. All I thought about was payback. Then Lena told me the truth. He slammed his palm on the table. I've waited a long time for this. I smiled small and steady. Yeah, I reported you. And I don't regret it. The room flickered with tension, people holding their breath. You were always starting fights. I continued people. Got hurt if I see that. I reported every time Connor's jaw clenched. Good. I like that attitude. You know why I made sure you came here today? This isn't just a reunion. He snapped his fingers. A group of large men in dark suits filed into the room, quiet, trained looking. Not classmates, not friends. The air changed instantly. I leaned back and tapped 2 fingers on the table, calm on the outside. Even as the room tightened around me, Connor, I said. Last chance, think carefully. If you try to touch me tonight, the consequences won't be something you can buy your way out of. The crowd buzzed, half terrified. Half thrilled, did you hear that? Someone whispered. Alex thinks Connor can't touch him. Another laughed nervously. A nobody challenging Connor. This is insane, Lena joined in. Voice sharp with contempt. Alex, what are you even doing? Look at yourself. Forget Connor, anyone here could walk all over you. I took a slow breath and slid my ring off my finger. Lena, I said, from this moment on, we're done completely. Then I looked at Connor and you. I said softly, are going to regret what you did tonight. Connor scoffed you. You're going to make me regret it. He spread his arms like he owned the room. I run things here, more laughter. More noise, until Connor lifted a hand and the room like quieted. They were trained, here's the deal. He said, get on your knees and apologize to everyone. And we call it even otherwise. You're leaving this place in pieces. My gaze sharpened. You really think you're untouchable? He leaned in smug, open your eyes. Look at the men behind me. And right then, the door swung open. A heavy presence stepped inside. Security, not a classmate. The kind of person who didn't need to raise his voice. To make people stop breathing. Connor straightened so fast it looked like whiplash. His whole tone changed as he hurried forward. "Sir," he said. "What brings you here?" The man scanned the room. Silence spread like a shadow. Then he spoke slow, and even whose black SUV is parked out front. All eyes turned to me. I didn't answer right away. I stood, adjusted my cuff, and walked past Connor like he was furniture. The truth was, the room was laughing at the wrong rumor. Yes, my business had hit a brutal storm this year. People love to call it bankruptcy. They love to say I've been acquired. They love the idea that the guy they envied in college finally got knocked down. But storms don't always sink a ship. Sometimes they just wash the weak overboard. I've been quiet because I wanted to see who stayed. When the lights went out now, I had my answer. I didn't get far before I caught the real scene. That had been happening while everyone watched. The staged one, I'd stepped away earlier to the restroom. When I came back, I saw Lena and Connor standing too close. Their arms linked, laughing like teenagers. Someone handed them 2 glasses. Someone shouted, "Do it!" And then my wife, my ex-wife technically, but the ink was still wet, tilted her glass to Connor's. The way couples do at weddings, an arm-length toast, a stupid party trick people treat like a dare. Connor leaned in, murmuring something in her ear. Lena threw her head back and laughed, lightly punching his chest, like he'd told her the cutest secret. Then Connor lifted his chin toward me, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "You still worried she'll get jealous?" Someone joked. Connor snorted. Jealous of him, he nodded at me like I was a stray dog. Pleased the guy can barely keep himself afloat. Lena giggled like the joke was harmless, and Connor leaned in like he was about to kiss her. I crossed the distance in one step and slammed my fist into Connor's face. The room exploded, chair scraped. People shouted my name like they were calling a fight at a bar. Connor stumbled, holding his nose. Eyes wide with shock, I didn't look away from Lena. "Do you know what you're doing?" I asked, my voice low and tight. Lena didn't flinch. She didn't panic. She didn't even look guilty. She just glared at me like I ruined her fun. "What's your problem?" she snapped. It was a game, truth or dare. I lost. It's not that deep. Then she rushed to Connor, hands fluttering over his face. "Are you okay?" she said. All sweet concern. "Does it hurt?" "Oh my God, you're bleeding, Connor." "I'm so sorry." Then she turned back to me. "Eyes cold ever since your business fell apart." "You've been acting crazy," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're paranoid, you're angry. You're embarrassing." That word hit like a slap. I saw people smirking, loving the drama. Loving the way the broke husband lost control. Someone grabbed my arm. "Alex, come on, people are just messing around." "It's a party," another voice urged. "It's not real." I tried to pull free. Lena leaned in and right in front of everyone. Kissed Connor on the cheeks, slow, deliberate, like she was planting a flag. "Alex," she said, voice sharp with triumph. "Connor is better than you. He has money. He has a future. I like him, so what?" The room went quiet, in that way that feels like a spotlight. And in that silence, something inside me settled. Because just a few weeks ago, Lena had cried on my shoulder and promised she'd stay through anything. She'd called me her life partner. She'd sworn she didn't care about money. And I believed her, not just believed her. I'd planned a surprise. My company had recovered. Not only recovered, it had climbed higher than it had ever been before. I've been preparing to transfer a portion of my shares into her name, a gift, a statement. Proof I trusted her now. Standing there, watching her defend Connor like I was the enemy, I realized she just handed me a gift too. Clarity. I stepped back and my voice turned calm. "Okay," I said. "Then let's do this the clean way." Lena's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I'll make sure you don't get a single cent," I said. Connor laughed through the blood on his lip. "Oh, please. Look at you. You're still pretending you have something to protect." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Then he opened it, revealing a necklace that glittered under the lights. He stepped close to Lena and clasped it around her neck, like he was crowning her. "You liked it last time," he murmured. Lena's eyes went shiny. She nodded hard, swallowing emotion like she'd just been chosen. Connor turned back to me, smiling like poison. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll take care of her. I won't let her suffer." Then, so close, only I could hear, he added, "I told you back then, Alex. Anything you have status money. Women, I'll take it from you. You had your little glory era, and now look at you. He tipped his head, savoring it. I work for One World Group now, he whispered, big league executive track. 7-figure pay people notice me. People respect me, I stared at him. One World, I repeated softly. Connor's grin widened. That's right. You know it, don't you? It's the kind of place you'll never touch. Meanwhile, you're headed for sleeping in your car and begging for change. He laughed under his breath. I laughed too. Because that was my company, and Connor had no idea who he was talking to. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just moved. My fist landed again, and then again, and then again. Controlled, precise, the kind of anger that doesn't explode. It executes! Connor went down to his knees fast. People screamed, someone grabbed my shoulders. Someone yanked me back by the time they pulled me off. Connor's face was swollen, and his confidence was gone. He coughed and raised his hands, shaking enough. Enough, he rasped. Lena dropped to her knees beside him, crying like she'd lost the love of her life. Connor, she pleaded. Wiping his face, Connor. Please, are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. Then she lifted her head and glared at me like I was her sworn enemy. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't see my wife, I saw a stranger. A stranger who'd worn softness like a costume, and I thanked the storm for exposing it. I straightened my jacket and looked down at Connor. You don't belong in my company, I said evenly from this moment on. You're done, Connor blinked. Then burst into laughter, painful. Jagged laughter, the kind that turns into a hiss. You, he spat. Fire me, who do you think you are? I took out my phone, I'm making a call. I said. Connor leaned back. Smugness crawling back into his eyes. Go ahead, call the president. Call the governor, call Santa. It won't change anything, I dialed. Then I paused, because when I pulled up his file, in my head everything Maya had already told me about him over the years. I realized firing him would be too easy. Quick, clean. Merciful, and I wasn't in a merciful mood. Instead, I looked toward the staff and raised my hand. A manager hurried over, nervous, sir. Put tonight's bill on one tab, I said, and then split it. I pointed at Connor, charge him. I said all of it. Connor's face twisted. What? The manager hesitated, sir. This is a private club. We can't just comp. I didn't say comp. I said, charge him. The manager swallowed. Our general manager would need to approve that. Then bring your general manager, I said. Connor clapped slowly like I was performing. Look at him, he said, turning to the room, still pretending he owns the place. Alex, you're broke. Everyone knows it. Stop embarrassing yourself. The manager hurried off. Connor leaned closer, lowering his voice to me again. When your little act collapses, I'm going to make you crawl. He stepped back and spread his legs, slightly smirking. You want to walk out, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Sure, crawl under like a man who knows his place. Otherwise, I call the cops and press charges for assault. The room erupted in laughter again. People who hadn't been touched by betrayal, laughing like it was a harmless joke. I stared at Connor, then I sighed like I was tired. Connor, I said softly, you have no idea how small you are. And I shoved him aside. He stumbled hard, crashing into a decorative stand near the door. He hit the floor with a gasp and a sharp yelp. Clutching his side, he looked up at me, eyes wide with sudden fear. I leaned down, not smiling. If you're going to threaten me, I said quietly, do it with something you can actually follow through on. Then I straightened and waited. A minute later, the manager returned with a man in a suit behind him. The general manager walked in briskly, ready to scold whoever was causing trouble. He opened his mouth and then he saw me. His whole face changed. He snapped to attention, like someone had just flipped a switch. Mr. Walker, he said, voice tight with respect, you're here. The room froze. Connor's smile faltered. Lena's mouth parted. The general manager bowed slightly. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize new manager. I asked, glancing at the guy who'd hesitated earlier. The general manager nodded quickly, sweating. Yes, sir. He's new, that explains it. I said. Connor let out a loud laugh. Forcing it, okay? Okay, nice. You paid someone to play along cute. The general manager's eyes flicked to Connor, confused and offended, then he looked back at me. Like he didn't know if he was allowed to breathe. I turned to Connor. You said you made 7 figures. I said you love showing off. I nodded toward the staff. Bring the card machine. I said, tonight's total every cent. The staff moved fast, now too fast for Connor to keep. Acting like he was in control, the number flashed, Connor's face went gray. Lena's eyes darted, like she was watching her fantasy crack. Connor swallowed this. This was supposed to be split funny. I said, because you told everyone you were treating. Voices rose immediately, you did. You literally said you invited us and you'd cover it. I only ordered that because you promised. Connor opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time all night. He looked trapped and I enjoyed it. Pay, I said. He did, his hand shook while he tapped his card. The moment it went through, I leaned in and now I said quietly, fulfill your little bet. Connor stared at me. What bet? The one you made? I said about humiliating me. His throat bobbed, he glanced around, hoping someone would save him. Nobody moved, because people love power until it turns against them. Security escorted Connor to the side room. A few minutes later, they came back carrying his suit jacket and shirt, and tossed them into a trash bin near the exit. Connor stood there in nothing but his undershirt and pants. Face burning, I didn't make him do anything obscene. I didn't need to. I just made him walk the hallway past everyone. While people stared, pride is a fragile thing. Sometimes all it takes is light. I left the reunion that night humming to myself, my black SUV waiting out front, like an answer to a question nobody knew how to ask. Behind me, Connor's voice cracked through the cold air. Alex, he shouted. You're dead, you hear me? You're dead. Lena stood a few feet away from him, wrinkling her nose, like she didn't want to stand too close. So much for love the next morning. We met at the county clerk's office. To finalize everything, Connor showed up in a BMW, wearing sunglasses, like he was still the hero of his own movie. Lena clung to him chin high, like she'd already rewritten her life story. Connor pointed at me and laughed. I almost believed you, he said. But I checked. The club's registered under a holding company. Your name isn't on the paperwork. You paid them to act, didn't you? How much did that cost your last dollars? I looked at him calmly, because while he was playing detective, I was pulling up his employee file. I held up my phone and tilted the screen toward Lena. Connor, I said, you forgot something. Connor blinked. What? You're married, I said. 2 kids, the color drained from Lena's face. Connor's jaw clenched. That's save it. I said your HR profile is very clear. Lena's expression twisted, like she'd swallowed something bitter. Connor recovered fast because that's what liars do. He wrapped an arm around her and kissed her cheek, loudly trying to turn humiliation into a performance. Baby, he said. Ignore him, he's jealous. Lena lifted her phone and snapped a picture with the divorce papers the moment they stamped. Then she posted it, smiling through her teeth. The caption was a little speech about finally choosing the best. And never settling again, I watched her type it, like she was writing her own applause. When she finished, she looked at me with that same smugness as the night before. Don't try to sabotage us, she said. It won't work, I smiled. Oh, I'm not sabotaging. I said I'm watching. Connor pulled her closer, voice dripping with fake devotion. I'll make you happy, Lena. I'll buy you a car. I'll buy you everything. He turned to me, eyes gleaming. Meanwhile, he said, you better get used to running from debt collectors. That's when Maya arrived, a black luxury SUV rolled up to the curb. Like it owned the street, Maya stepped out in a clean, tailored suit, hair pulled back. Expression sharp, she walked straight to me, opened my door and nodded, boss. She said quietly. Lena's eyes flew wide. Then she did what selfish people always do when reality threatens them. She lunged toward me, furious. You disgusting liar, she shouted. You're bringing women around. You cheated on me. She grabbed for my sleeve like she could claim me again, like a receipt she wanted to return. Maya moved in front of her so fast it looked effortless. And then Maya's hand snapped out a clean. Hard slap. Lena staggered back. Stunned you. Lena gasped, clutching her cheek. Maya didn't blink. Watch your mouth. She said you're insulting the CEO. Lena's eyes watered, rage and humiliation mixing into something ugly. CEO of what? This is ridiculous. Connor burst into laughter. Oh my God, he said, pointing at Maya. This is still going, CEO Alex, you're in. He kicked the SUV's tire with his foot, sneering. This thing's rented, how much is it? $1,000 a day, you can't even afford lunch. And you're renting cars to act rich. Then he pulled out a thick stack of cash and tossed it into the air. Like confetti bills fluttered onto the pavement here. He said loudly, pick it up. Consider it charity. Maybe you can finally buy instant noodles. He looked Maya up and down with a disgusting grin, like she was a prop too. Then he said something crude. Something meant to humiliate her. The way he tried to humiliate me. Maya didn't let him finish. Her foot drove forward and Connor stumbled back hard, landing on the sidewalk with a grunt. His sunglasses flew off. He scrambled up, face twisted in shock. He spat, do you know who I am? Maya leaned in slightly, voice calm and deadly. She said, you're an employee with a file. Then she glanced at me. I nodded once. Teach him manners, I said. But don't do anything. That'll make paperwork complicated. Maya didn't smile. She just moved. 5 minutes later, Connor was on his knees, hands up begging. The cash lay scattered around him, useless. Lena stood frozen, trembling, like her brain couldn't decide which lie to cling to. I stepped into the SUV and sat back. Maya got into the driver's seat, eyes forward next week. I said quietly, check the guest list for the annual gala. Make sure Connor's name is on it. Maya's fingers tightened on the wheel. You want him invited? I want him comfortable. I said comfortable. People make bigger mistakes. Maya nodded, and Lena. I exhaled slowly, she'll come too. I said she won't be able to resist. Maya didn't ask why, she already knew. I watched the city blur past the window, feeling nothing but a cold, clean patience, because if Connor and Lena thought the reunion was a stage, they hadn't even seen the real one yet. A week later, the One World Group annual gala arrived. It was the kind of night that made headlines. Without trying executives, partners boards, subsidiary presidents flying in from across the country, deals worth more than the buildings they were signed in, and Lena showed up like she was auditioning. Hair curled into dramatic waves, bright red lipstick, a dress cut high enough to make her feel powerful and bold. I saw her from the shadows for a moment. Listening, I heard the CEO is young. She whispered to Connor, excitement bright in her voice, and handsome and insanely rich. There aren't even photos online. He's private. Connor chuckled, kissing her temple. Then you better charm him, huh? Lena smiled like it was a plan. He's going to be mine, she said softly, like she was talking to herself, using Connor as a stepping stone to reach me. Even now, she thought life was a ladder made of men. Connor's arms slid around her waist. After tonight, he murmured, we're officially in the top circle. You'll see. They walked toward the ballroom, like they belonged there. I stepped out from the dark a few seconds later and adjusted my cuff. Maya appeared beside me. Everything ready, I asked. Yes, she said. And the dress delivery delivered. I said because the final piece wasn't Connor. It was Connor's wife, and she deserved to see the truth, too, when Lena spotted me inside. Her whole face tightened like she'd bitten a lemon. She marched over, furious and loud. What are you doing here? She hissed. You don't have an invite. How did you even get in? I looked at her calmly. I walked in. She scoffed. You're stalking me. You're trying to crawl back. I'm not taking you back, Alex. Get it through your head. Connor arrived behind her, wrapping his arms around her with that fake ownership. Oh, wow. He said, look who snuck in to eat free food. Alex, you're getting creative. He raised his voice, just enough for nearby people to hear. Security should really tighten up. Any random guy can wander in. A few managers noticed the commotion and drifted closer. Men in expensive suits with busy expressions. Connor's face switched instantly into polite charm. Mr. Hughes, he said with a little bow. Mr. Patel, sorry about the noise. Just an old acquaintance, Lena's ex-husband. He's been struggling, kind of desperate. They looked at me once barely and dismissed me with their eyes. People like that shouldn't be inside. One muttered, yeah. Another said, we're here to welcome the CEO, not babysit. Connor nodded eagerly. Exactly. I told him to leave, but you know how it is. Lena turned to me again, eyes sharp with contempt. If you ruin this night for Connor, she snapped, I swear I'll make you regret it. I didn't move. I didn't argue. I just walked past them and I sat down in the CEO's seat. The head table went silent, like someone had cut the music. Connor's eyes bulged. He rushed over. Grabbing at my sleeve, "Are you insane?" He hissed, "That's the CEO seat." He spun towards security, shouting, "Guards, get over here, drag this guy out." Lena stared at Connor like he was the bravest man alive. "Baby," she breathed. "You're so amazing." Maya arrived with 2 bodyguards. She stepped between me and Connor and lifted her chin. "I'd like to see someone try," she said. Connor's mouth twisted. "You again? You're really committed to this acting gig. Huh, Alex? How much did you pay her? I'll pay double." He reached for his phone. Maya's hand moved faster. Another slap, Connor hit the floor. The ballroom gasped. Connor looked up enraged. "You're done. You're finished. Do you know what happens when the CEO hears about this? He'll destroy you." Maya didn't even look at him. She looked at me. I checked my watch. Then I spoke, voice calm enough to slice. "Call Jared," I told Maya. "Move the schedule up by 1 hour." Connor burst into laughter from the floor. "Did you hear that?" he shouted to the room. "This guy thinks he can change the gala schedule. The time's been the same for years." Lena grabbed my arm, trying to yank me up. "You're sick," she spat. "You're humiliating yourself." Maya knocked her hand away like it was nothing. "Touch him again," Maya said, "and you'll be removed." Connor staggered up, pointing at me, voice louder now. "Everyone look," he yelled. "He's pretending to be the CEO. This is what happens when a man loses everything. He starts living in fantasies." I leaned back in the chair and said nothing, because the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to arrive 30 minutes later. The ballroom doors opened and the room stood up. Without being told, a line of executives and presidents walked in, dozens of them followed by the board. At the front was Connor's direct boss, Wes Klein. Wes's eyes found me instantly. His face went pale. He rushed forward and without hesitation slapped Connor so hard the sound echoed. Connor staggered, stunned. "Boss," he croaked. Wes leaned in, voice shaking with fury and fear. "You want to die? Is that what you want?" Connor's eyes darted wildly. "What are you doing? He's a fraud." Wes slapped him again and shoved him down. Then Wes turned to me and bowed deeply. "Mr. Walker," he said, voice tight, "I'm sorry I didn't control my staff. I'm sorry you were put in this position." The room went dead silent. Every manager who had ignored me now looked like they'd forgotten how to breathe. Lena's face drained of color so fast. It was almost scary. Connor's mouth opened and closed like a broken machine. "Mr. Walker," he whispered, "No, that's..." I tilted my head slightly. "Connor," I said almost gently, "you've been calling me broke for 2 weeks. I glanced around the room, and you've been calling me a fraud for 30 minutes. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Do you want to keep going?" I asked. Connor's eyes went glassy. This has to be a mistake." Wes's voice cracked. "You don't get it, because you're not important enough to see the real structure. The club, the holding companies, the privacy layers." He swallowed hard. "Those exist for a reason." Connor shook his head, like a child refusing to accept reality. "I checked the registries. His name wasn't." "Because you don't know what you're looking at," I said calmly, "and you don't have access." I turned to Maya. She stepped forward and dropped a folder in front of Connor. It slid across the floor and stopped at his knees. Connor stared at it, trembling. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "Connor," I said, "you've been taking kickbacks. You've been moving money where it doesn't belong. You've been using my company's name like a costume to intimidate people." Connor's face twisted. That's not." Maya's tone was flat. "We've already called it in." Connor's breath turned ragged. Lena finally found her voice. "Alex," she whispered, eyes wide with shock, "you're the CEO." I looked at her and I saw the moment. Her brain rewrote the last 5 years, trying to figure out how to feel regret. Without admitting greed, Connor's gaze snapped to Lena, wild and furious, like she was the reason his fantasy collapsed. "You didn't even know he hissed at her. You didn't know who he was." He lunged, hand shot out. Security moved fast. Connor grabbed Lena by the throat for a split second. Pure panic and rage before guards tore him off. Lena screamed, stumbling back, coughing. Eyes wide with terror, Connor thrashed, roaring like an animal cornered. Police entered the ballroom and cuffed him while he spat threats into the air. Words half-formed, meaningless now. Wes didn't look at him again. He looked at me. "I'll resign." Wes said quickly, whatever you decide. I accept. I nodded once. Handle your department, I said. And make sure this becomes an example. Wes swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Maya turned to security remove Miss Carter. She said, using Lena's maiden name like a final cut. She's no longer a guest here. Lena's knees nearly buckled. Alex, wait. She pleaded I didn't stand. I didn't even look back. The gala continued. To everyone else, it became another legendary night. The CEO arriving early, the schedule shifting, a massive contract signed. Champagne flowing, speeches polished. To me, it became the cleanest ending I could have asked for, because betrayal is loud and consequences are louder. When it ended, I left the ballroom and got into my car. I was halfway down the driveway when someone ran into the headlights and threw their hands up. The driver braked. The car stopped. Lena rushed up and slammed her palms against the window. Sobbing, I lowered it a few inches. Miss Carter, I said calmly. What is it when I really looked at her? I barely recognized her. Her face was swollen like she'd been in a fight. Makeup-smeared lip split. She flinched at the cold air, then forced herself to speak. Alex, she said. Voice shaking, I'm sorry. That night I was out of my mind. I was jealous, I was stupid. I've always loved you, she swallowed hard. I got hurt, she added quickly. Like it was proof she'd paid for her mistake. Connor's wife, she found out she did this to me. I learned my lesson. Please just give me one more chance. I watched her. I remembered all the moments. She'd chosen Connor's side without hesitation. The way she'd defended him. The way she'd laughed. The way she'd called me embarrassing. I smiled slightly. You said one more chance, like you didn't already spend them. I said, her eyes filled again. You're not blameless, she snapped, suddenly anger flashing through the tears. You hid everything from me. You let me believe you failed. You didn't trust me. I opened the door and stepped out. My voice stayed calm. I didn't tell you. I said, or you didn't listen. She blinked. I told you the club was mine. I said you laughed. I told you I still had power. I said you didn't believe me. I told you people were wrong about me. I said you sided with Connor. The second he waved money in your face, her lips trembled. You didn't want truth, I said. You wanted a guarantee? Then she whispered, desperate. I'm pregnant. The words hit like a cheap trap. My mind went still. Then I exhaled slowly. We haven't been together in months. I said so, no. Whatever that is, it isn't mine. Lena's face twisted, and then she did something that would have been fun if it wasn't pathetic if I fix it, she said quickly. I'm shining with hope if I get rid of it. Then you'll forgive me, right? We can start over, right? I stared at her, and I realized something ugly. It wasn't love. It wasn't remorse. It was bargaining. I shook my head once. You need help, I said quietly. Not another husband. Then I stepped back into the car. As we pulled away, I saw Lena collapse in the headlights, sobbing like the world owed her mercy. In the weeks that followed, I got updates I didn't ask for. Connor's arrest turned into a full investigation. The paper trail was long. The consequences were heavy. Lena's new life collapsed faster than it had been built. She'd burned bridges everywhere and called it confidence, and when the smoke cleared, she had nowhere to stand one afternoon. Maya sat across from me with a tablet in her hands. Boss, she said carefully, you should know Lena's situation has gotten worse. I didn't look up, don't. Maya paused. She's been pulled into a lot of fallout. Dead bad people. Hospital visits, I said don't. I repeated, calm but final. Maya closed the tablet. Silence filled the office for a moment. Then she cleared her throat gently. Also, she said, we closed the new deal this morning. That got my attention. How much? I asked. Maya's eyes flicked up. 10 figures. I leaned back slowly, feeling that cold, familiar satisfaction settle in. Good, I said. Your bonus doubles. Maya blinked. Boss, you earned it, I said, and I like confident loyalty. That night, I stood in a robe by my floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city glow beneath me. The skyline was beautiful from up there. Also lonely, a soft presence approached from behind. Maya's reflection appeared in the glass. Quiet and steady, you, okay? She asked. I stared at the lights. The moving cars, the tiny lives. That thought money was the only kind of power. I'm fine, I said. Then after a beat, I added, I'm just done being surprised by people. Maya didn't rush to comfort me with empty words. She simply stood there, shoulder close enough to feel real. And for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace.